Because you cannot find something which is not there. You see? So, you see, if we are all standing erect and you alone, you bend down and find something there. You see, we are all sitting like we are all sitting here.
Yes.
Then the so this is the situation in which we found ourselves. And so I found it very regrettable that this country has lost so badly on a situation where a courageous person would have wanted to save the taxpayers' money.
Maybe.
To save our democratic process from huge embarrassment and from huge losses that we incur yearly. This country loses billions to do corrupt acts in a year.
Yeah.
And so we should be applauding people who want to enter into the anti-corruption ring.
He wasn't fighting.
And then you yourself said that through his actions we have managed to even retrieve some monies.
Yes.
Yes. So he's somebody who must comment. And so I am just sad that we waited for all this while to come with this ruling. Today, what is the significance?
The will of justice.
It's symbolic. It's more of symbolic this thing than this. That's why I said that the House say is too Sabayan Kashi.
Right, thank you so much. Come here, Bernard.
So the ruling is good.
Well, I
I read something to the effect that Justice said. I cannot pin it on you.
It's my turn.
I have no knowledge to.
Right.
I'm very careful about commenting on Supreme Court matters. Where you can. I won't go there.
It is my turn to speak.
Yes.
President Akufo-Addo, Nana Asante Bediatuo, the executive secretary who wrote the letter infamously dismissing Dom Levo from office. And when Dom Levo at the time indicated that they were wrong and that his days that they gave him 113 days leaves to proceed on leave. And when that was getting closer, they went and brought in a new document that suggested that he was actually supposed to be on retirement. And then they extended the days from 113 to 163 to tell them that you aren't coming to the office. And when it was time he returned to the office, they had changed the locks. They had brought in his deputy who was always undermining him to take over. His major crime was that a company called Kroll and Associates were said to have been contracted and an amount of $1 million was paid through Osafo Maafo to Kroll and Associates. The work for which they were supposed to be paid that amount was not done. And as an Auditor General who was determined to ensure that monies that were lost under dubious circumstances were returned, he simply ordered Osafo Maafo to return the money to the state of Ghana. Wouldn't you allow me to speak? Won't you allow me to speak? Won't you allow me to speak? Thank you. You should admire the way when you are talking I keep quiet.
Yes, you do well.
So, return money to the state. So all President Akufo-Addo needed to do was to say, Osafo Maafo, 1 million na udi no fabra. That's all Dom Levo requested for. President Akufo-Addo could not order Osafo Maafo that the Auditor General said you took money that was not used for the purpose, so get the money back. And then, while this tussle was ongoing, you cleared Dom Levo, appoint a caretaker Auditor General. The day the man took over office, the next day he wrote a letter clearing Osafo Maafo. It was no court that cleared Osafo Maafo. No, it was no court. No, it was no court. No.
Yes.
No, it was the Auditor General that wrote the letter saying that Osafo Maafo committed no crime.
No.
And freed him of the charges that he should return the money to the state. $1 million. I see. $1 million. Multiply that by 12 cedis. And tell me how many millions of Ghana cedis that is. That is the crime of Demolebo. So you sack Demolebo from office. Now, today, Ghana is going to lose 3 times. 1, we have paid money to an Auditor General. The Supreme Court says that he is not qualified to have succeeded Demolebo, and that his appointment is null and void. But he has chopped our money. 2, the Kroll and Associates money that Osafo Mafu took, 1 million, is not returned. And the unjust Auditor General wrote to say that Osafo Mafu committed no crime and cleared him. 3, Demolebo has stated in one of the newspapers that his benefits that were due him have not been paid. For the period that he was sacked and he did not work, we are supposed to pay judgment. Except Demolebo says that he cannot take money for which he did not work for. But he did not go to court. So it's civil society that went to court. So civil society and Professor Tua can actually go back to the court and request that he should be paid. If the money is released to him and he doesn't want it, he can bring it to Bernard.
Permit me to read just this.
No,
thing.
I'm still in talk.
Senior Minister Osafo Mafu has won the case involving $1 million search slapped on him by the Auditor General, Yao Demolebo, on is it?
Which court is that? The date.
Which court? No, don't worry. We get all these things. Demolebo was hasty. Court reverses $1 million.
But let me say something.
They are all there. There's nothing in this country. I googled this. I told you this.
No,
I'll give you. Don't worry. Because of what he said, it was the Auditor General that claimed.
Auditor General
wrote.
Auditor General wrote.
Can you let
Sorry. It's just to inform the
it is obvious how President Akufo-Addo has used his executive power to more or less influence and coerce the judiciary into some of these decisions. And I'm happy that at the end of the day, this justice has come, in spite of the fact that it is justice delayed. It will serve as precedent for many other decisions of this nature, so that we don't run such a messed government.
October 30th, graphic on that.
Bless. In fact, two groups have asked me to use your platform because they are voiceless. One of their things is to speak for them. The Association of Contractors. So many of their members
Are dying.
They are falling sick. A lot of them are sick. They can't even buy medicine.
IAC and Co owes them. Not more owes them a lot.
Billions, tens of billions of Ghana cedis now owed to contractors. A lot of them are dying. They are workers and others. Some of them are even dead. They can't get them.
They say you don't go to the office.
So they say I should make a fervent appeal to.
You don't go to office regularly.
Mr. Kenufurata, Minister for Finance.
Because you owe them.
Because we have checked, and from the ambit of Parliament that we have used, the Roads Minister has actually processed some of these things, but they are with the Finance Minister and he's not paying the money.
No, the Finance Minister is selecting his.
So we hear that the Finance Minister has constituted a team that they are selecting people to pay and leave the overwhelming majority of one contractors. That's blatant injustice and discrimination, which is abhorred by the Constitution, of this Republic. And then more importantly, yes, I tell you that we have done that. We have called the Finance Minister on countless occasions before Parliament to come and answer. And one of the most obnoxious things that he does is to put in this capping thing to take away even money from the road fund and take it back to the Finance Ministry to abuse the money. Because the road fund was instituted specifically
this one you
to
cannot
generate revenue to pay contractors. He has taken all those monies back to the Finance Ministry. What is it we need? And we are serving notice. I am going to launch a crusade when we get back to make sure that this obnoxious capping thing that he does, especially with the road fund, is taking off.
Right.
And then also NABCO people have, I said 2 people. NABCO people are crying. There are some of them, they are owed between 6 and 10 months of money. Yes.
NABCO is no money.
That have not been paid.
Right.
So we have dispensed with them pay them the money, let them go. You remember government issued a statement saying that they have not been
Thank you very much.
They are not paying them.
Thank you so much, Alhaji Abie Husseini.
They are not paying them.
Thank you.
No, not of you.
Thank you.
Large numbers of them.
For me and tell him Royal Stephen Pengwa is wishing him well. Thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been a pleasure. Tomorrow is Alhaji and Alhaji. Make sure you do what to watch. Do have a pleasant morning. Bye-bye.
Truly African.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show. This is The Couch. My name is Amma Pratt. It's a rainy Thursday. Today is the 1st of June. I'm excited about June and all the possibilities, endless possibilities it has for all of us. It's starting on a very, very, very rainy note. Again, excited about that. Let's see what the rest of the year holds. This is exactly, half a month. This is the next half of the year. So, time to dust off your resolutions. Let's see what we can do with June. Tonight's show is on Hard Talk. We'll do a bit of politics today. I am excited about my guest this evening. You know why. I am going to be having this conversation with my madam, my madam D, Joyce Bawa Muktari. She's spokesperson for our former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. There are so many issues to go into the aftermath of the elections, 2 by-elections after that, internal issues in the NDC, lots more. Lots and lots and lots and lots more. Today is a live show. Those don't happen often these days. So please, rush over to Facebook, leave us a message, a comment, whatever you have, whatever is bothering your mind, ask. Madam Joyce Bawa is very happy to answer yours and mine. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call
Welcome back to the show. Madam Joyce Bawa Muktari. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Madam.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Madam Amma Pratt. Thank you.
Always
for
a pleasure.
Literally chasing me into the studio.
Only I can do that to you.
Well, I told you that this
Yeah.
is, I'm actually a patron.
Right.
We are stakeholders of
Actually.
Obasima.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are excited about the 9th of June.
Massima no Mosha. I'm Saturday born to, so I'm actually Amma.
So everything is scripted nice. Scripted nice. Thank you for making time. I know today has been very busy for you.
See
I know.
The hair color is lit. It's on fleek.
All for you.
Obviously.
All for you. All for you. All for you. I want us to go straight to UDS, where His Excellency, our former President, gave us, his speech after everything was settled and done. Today, I want us to start the conversation based on his words. So please, allow me, every now and then I'll read a little from his speech. So I'll start with this one. He says, I must add very quickly how happy I am to be speaking here at the University of Development Studies, UDS, in Tamale, having earlier launched my campaign at the University of Health and Allied Sciences, all of that. And then I will come straight down here. Let me, on your behalf and on my own behalf, acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, former Mayor Kojo Bonsu, and Mr. Ernest Kobia towards enhancing the internal democratic systems of our party. Let me put you on the spot and say how. How is it? And today I'm not even wasting. Today we have an hour and a half, and I'm going to make the most of that hour and a half. How is it? How could Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, Kojo Bonsu, and Ernest Kobia, how could they have enhanced the internal democratic systems of the party when they literally dragged the party to court hours before the election?
Well, good evening, Amma, and good evening to everybody who's joining us on the show this evening. See, I know you seem very, very excited this evening. I am sure you want to do a lot of mischief.
Yes, that's true.
And, so I'm beginning to ask if it was a good idea to
be
here, especially under current circumstances. Things are very tough.
Right.
Things are not as easy as they used to be or as we expect them to be. Times are actually very, very hard. And I love a quote that actually came up because over the last few hours we are all mourning the passing of Professor Amma Ata Edu. And one of the quotes that actually resonates with me very much says that when they ask you, tell them that life happened and tell them that I failed to learn the rules of life. I just never learned how to play this thing called life.
That's a deep one.
Very, very deep and very profound. And so I think in many ways it actually brings this conversation to bear also on our democracy. And you do know that underpinning all of our democratic processes is actually competition. As simple as that. Why not? Personally, in the wake of 2020, I would have hoped that we will actually be able to find, a middle way, and then maybe JM would have gotten an acclamation or be allowed to go unopposed, etc. But you see, in his own words, he loves competition. He thinks that is actually what democracy is all about. He's also very, very pragmatic, that there will be many people who will be willing at one point or the other to put themselves up also to contest. If you look at what happened in 2020, for example, there were many other people, almost 5 other people, including him, making them 6. In 2020, there is a particular thing about the NDC that we forget to mention, that in the space of 4 years, we had made a fantastic comeback, even to equal our opponents in Parliament. And so you'd think that everybody would, be okay with JM actually leading the party into the next general election. But that wasn't to be. But be that as it may, they put themselves up, they picked up nomination forms, they filed to contest and all of that. But whatever the case is, I think that that figure of 99% tells you one thing, that our delegates all along knew exactly who they wanted to lead them into the next election. They knew exactly what they were looking for. And funny enough, even at the point when Dr. Duffuor actually withdrew from the race, which was just a day before the actual election, because the notice of poll had been published, we were just ready to go out there and vote when he decided to go to court. And so when he finally decided to withdraw the case from court, what happened? People didn't even know.
True.
Yes, a lot of people didn't know.
True.
And so when people started to hold this debate about the numbers of spoiled ballots and all of that, it was obvious that the EC had decided to count all of the votes cast in his interest as spoiled ballots because he had pulled out of the contest. I mean, too little, too late, yes. Did he even have to stay in the race? Who knows? Was it even necessary for him to go into the race? Who knows? I think it was fantastic. What I cannot take away is some of the things that were said. And you know, maybe because we have some amount of time, I've been following events in Nigeria in the aftermath of the election. I've followed the inaugural speeches, the commentary that accompanied the inaugural speeches, because the same day they swore in many of these governors as well. And Amma, there's one thing that I took away. There were no wishy-washy statements, no unnecessary, insults or descriptions, denigration of your predecessor or your successor and things like that. Absolutely not. Not once did I hear any of that. In a few weeks, even to the inauguration, we had heard that there was a certain falling out even between Buhari and now President Tinubu and all of that. But none of that played out on the day. And then I commented to a friend who lives there, who is actually a judge now. And he said, but I find that very strange about the politics in Ghana.
Right.
I find it very caustic, very acerbic. Sometimes it's outright just totally rude and unnecessary. And then he said, it's very rare here in Nigeria. So it speaks volumes.
Okay. So we should take this as, a more mature person extending an olive branch after an election, like a graceful winner after an election. And there's something that you just said that has also come up, this thing about that whole exercise of going to the polls for the NDC particularly. Was it even necessary? Because everybody, come on, 99%, everybody understands who was wanted, and so did we even have to go through that whole charade?
Well, you know what I mean.
And possible drama.
Plenty drama.
But
unnecessary
really,
drama.
Was it?
We didn't need it. But, you see, the beauty about democracy is that every day we learn.
Right.
I think there's some lessons that come along as you go on. And I think it's a great thing that happened. And at least we all know where we stand now. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting that around the time when Dr. Duffuor was actually contesting, his son was also contesting. In the final analysis, father lost, son lost. And so you see there was also a certain correlation, But I think that genuinely, if you know that you're going to pick up forms, for example, you're not going to win, why are you bothering? You understand? And you ask yourself, yes, it's ridiculous, it's mind-boggling, but hey, these things happen, so I think...
But the NDC as a party, JP, forgive me for putting you on the spot, the NDC as a party, wouldn't it... is it possible... is it looking at the possibility of saving itself? Because they say you can't fight with a man who has nothing to lose.
True.
If somebody has nothing to lose, the person will drag you to any length, what does he have to lose? But then it could cost the party. Yeah. So the NDC as a party, are you looking at that, the possibility of, you know, in the future, not now?
I think that genuinely every effort was made actually to mend fences. And even in the aftermath, I believe that President Mahama spoke about receiving phone calls from both gentlemen. The campaign convener, Professor Joshua Alabi, also received similar overtures from them. I believe that at the by-election in Kumeru, for example, we saw Dr. Dufour, who participated actively in the exercise. I also saw the former mayor, who participated also. So yes, I mean, in many ways, I think that they are trying very hard to make amends. Indeed, we saw the letter written by Dr. Dufour where he actually said that he remained a member of the NDC and that he wasn't leaving the party or anything in the aftermath. Look, Amma, it was simply an exercise in futility. But of course, you and I were definitely not advisors. Our opinions were not sought. Nobody even thought it fit to ask whether it was a good idea or not. But of course, I think that for our part, coming from the office of the former president, we had only one purpose: to ensure that we worked very, very hard, to ensure that we received each and every vote that was available, to ensure that we energized the base of the party, to touch on each of the 275 constituencies, even before election day.
Right.
And that's exactly what we did.
Right. I mean, so clearly, both gentlemen are still actively working within the party structure and all of that. Is it a sign of things to come, you know, for an NDC government? In an NDC government, would we see Dr. Dufour play significant, active, roles?
As for this one, let me take the Fifth Amendment. These ones are way above my pay grade, and I'm not sure that
your pay grade is high.
Oh no, it depends on how you're looking at it and where you're seated. So certainly not. Last time I checked, this one is not part of my terms of reference.
A girl can try.
You're pushing very hard. But this is certainly no way near my pay grade.
Okay, so let's come to the Kumaru elections. We've had two by-elections, since the victory of His Excellency. Do you think it's too much too soon? Is it too much weight, on a newly, we understand the nuances, but still, a newly elected, flag bearer?
Amma, what other choice do we have under the circumstances? You see, we're living in a certain quagmire. There is a certain dilemma that we all find ourselves in. It's almost as if you're on a boat, for example, and then you're not sure whether to conduct a general average act or to leave it to float, or whether if you leave it, it's going to sink. You are never really quite sure. Look, we are living in very, very turbulent times under a very, very difficult and unrepentantly abysmal administration. There is enormous uncertainty and, in fact, even anxiety. If you listen to the nature of crimes that are currently being committed, things that are going on, you can tell a lot of people are very, very jittery right now. And it's the same even within our politics. Because naturally, when the leadership is shaky, when you are not, when leaders are very erratic, it actually trickles down. And I think over the last few months, you can see that this inconsistent type of leadership has also dovetailed into how all of us as people react and behave under certain circumstances. Just to digress a little bit, this afternoon, a little crawler caught my eyes as I sat in the conference room with a client of mine. And I noticed that this was the Deputy Finance Minister, literally begging pensioners to go home. Because once more, they were at the ministry, and the ministry has not been able to make the payments. And then even after she spoke for like a few minutes, a very old gentleman said to her, we have decided to vary our appearances here just to give you time to pay us. So we were here today. We'll be back. Did he say Thursday or Friday, or did he say Monday? Yes. it literally summed up in so few words and in a very short period of time just how bad things are. It encapsulated all of our anxieties in that short exchange. And I noticed there's an infographic of what she said making the rounds. That is exactly where we are. So there's all of this going on, and then you see what happened in Kumewu. So if all the money was there all along, what were they waiting for?
Right.
I mean, yes, you see, I don't want to say that other governments have not done similar things or tried to undertake these exercises one way or the other. It is the ferociousness of the onslaught. And so I ask, is this the democracy that we are all actually expecting? You ask sometimes. Look at what happened in Kumewu. I mean, look at the circumstances even leading to the demise of the poor guy. Look at the efforts he made to have them even improve on the road network in his lifetime. And as soon as the guy drops, look at all the things. But you see, they have rendered our poor even poorer. And that is the real sad aspect of all of this. You see, you look at days of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, for example, where there was this need to bring everybody on board to be sure that every Ghanaian literally lived on a certain, baseline. You look at the days of, even in the times of the turbulence with all the military whatevers. I mean, we had Operation Feed Yourself from Echampong. We had some estates from Echampong, for example. I mean, one of the individuals in that short period of time people actually credit with coming up with some very populist things, other than probably Jerry John Rawlings, who had a particularly long period of time in office. And I think in many ways, even that coup by Jerry John Rawlings literally sealed the fate of all other coup d'etats. And I think since the 1992 Constitution was born, we've had relative peace, uninterrupted democracy. And so you'd expect that there'll be some improvements in how we approach these things. But now we have this double-edged sword. Nobody knows where it's going to cut from. And nobody knows how it's going to cut. All you know is that there's someone who's totally mismanaged your economy, rendered your country absolutely bankrupt and insolvent, literally doesn't give a damn what you think, basically, and tells you to your face. Right. You understand? Right. And so, it's the same with the populace too. I mean, ask. You know, I told someone that in the course of the campaign, I watched how there were attempts to give people like very little few cups of rice at one point or the other. I found that very ridiculous, and I asked myself, why would someone accept this little bag of rice with somebody's little picture on it and vote for them? But think about it. If you look at the poverty index, for example, our poor have gotten even poorer. Imagine what an olonka of rice.
Where it can go. Where it can go.
And what it can do for a family.
Right. Right.
You understand?
Right.
So you and I may find it difficult to, understand.
Right.
But it makes sense. I mean, so yes, we've kept everybody poor. But we want an election, we want to win. Right. So what are we going to do? We'll just go in there and try and give them rice, give them soap, give them sugar.
Business as usual. I've heard, actually, let me mention, last Friday I was here with the Honorable Abi Afuseni, and he felt that it was a win for the NDC, regardless, the numbers. He feels that it was a win for the NDC, and he explains that the NDC numbers actually doubled, percentages doubled, and for him it's an indication of things to happen in the main election. Do you feel the same way for both by-elections? I want you to sum them together.
We had a fantastic candidate.
Right.
We put up a fantastic campaign. He did his very, very best. I mean, this is a constituency where we usually get away with about 1,000 to 2,000. I think we even did better than the 2,000 plus. Reason being that there was an independent candidate who actually literally split the rest of the votes with our candidate.
Right.
So imagine that independent candidate probably hadn't contested. So yes, certainly. I mean, I would say one thing. Judging by the performance of the NDC in that constituency, a particularly very hostile environment.
Right.
I've picked up conversations from some of our colleagues who participated actively even on D-Day and the sentiments that were expressed. So it makes sense. I'm looking forward to what is going to happen in Assin North, for example. It's a swing constituency. We've won it at least once, and they've won it twice. I have no reason to doubt that the NDC will retain that seat. You understand? Largely because of the circumstances, largely because of the injustice, and I love the fact that they picked a particularly fantastic theme, one that resonates with everybody across our side of the aisle, for justice and for development. This is an individual who left a village like Assin North, traveled all the way to Canada in the 70s, and the whole time he kept faith with his people. It is one of the constituencies that actually voted more for the individual on this ticket than for the ticket belonging to that individual. Because in that constituency, to the NDC flag bearers 15,000 plus votes, to the NPP flag bearers 16,000 plus votes, Kwesi actually got over 17,000 votes, performing better than both flag bearers from both political sides of the divide. So it tells you that this is a man who is with his people. These are people who are with their man, who appreciate him for who he is, for his contribution to the constituency. Look, there is so much that he has done in that place. Putting in place libraries, putting in place schools, helping with training of teachers, helping with construction of hospitals. In all the years, even before he came in to contest. And no matter what we say and how we say it, this will be one of the unfairest cuts of all in terms of our politics. And irrespective of the overly partisan environment in which we operate, it is a matter that will continue to beat the minds of many students of politics and law for many years to come. I'm sure this is a debate that will go on and on for quite some time. Not just to stop the man from carrying out his duties as Parliament, but to eventually ask that the record of his participation be expunged from the register of parliamentarians. It is almost as if you never contested. You understand? So it is an election that I expect us to win. I'm delighted at the passion and the effort that the party is putting into it at this moment. I'm happy that most of our people will be moving into the constituency to give him all the support that he needs. Look, this can be emotionally draining on an individual. I'm sure if that man were to count the costs of the last 4 years, it would be a very sad story.
That brings, and I'm sorry to catch you at this point, but that brings me straight to this issue of the level at which you operated, especially in Kumewu. We are speaking about polling agents, parliamentarians, former parliament, so you operated at a very top level, and I mean, the results are there for all to see. There could have been drama, but again, due to the personalities that were present in the place, is that deliberate? Will we see that, sort of cut across the country for the 2024 main election?
To curb the stealing that has gone on over the years, the rigging that has gone on over the years, what you need is vigilance. It is in all of us our interests as operatives to participate in whatever way, whatever small way that any individual feels that he or she can be of help, they ought to put themselves at the beck and call of the party.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
You know, it is not so much in training. Look, sometimes there is basic intimidation. Oh, yes. Look, there are times when people literally live in fear in some constituencies. So you might be a polling agent, you might be very well trained. Look at what happened in Gumau, for example, that you sign off on a pink sheet even before the elections have started. Why would that be? But yes, they pick them up from the same communities. And you know how it is in some of these communities, even to be a member of the NDC, naturally. So it's understandable. And so the only way that we can reform these sorts of things is to have persons who are bold, who are confident, who are fearless, who understand elections.
Who themselves are intimidating.
And exactly.
Who themselves are intimidating.
Yes.
Right.
So it's a fantastic phenomenon. I love this new energy and this sense of urgency and community spirit that we have all developed over the years. Because look, to unseat Akufo-Addo and his rigging machinery, Ama, we must take the kingdom of heaven by force.
That brings me
Let's
straight.
make no mistake.
That brings me straight to the EC.
Let's make no mistake.
Straight to the EC. I mean, before our last general elections, there was a lot of, back and forth with the NDC. The NDC, categorically called out the EC for bias. This time, the rancor doesn't seem as much, unless I'm not looking at it properly. I mean, there are issues. Never, I will never say that there are no issues. Birth certificates, lots of issues. But the level at which we sort of seem to be battling the EC, in my estimation, I could be wrong, please feel free to point it out to me that I'm wrong, seems to have toned down a little bit. Are we changing strategy in how we are dealing with the EC, or has the EC changed? Is the EC behaving better? Essentially, that's my question.
Amma, this is a very ambiguous question, and I have to navigate this one very, very carefully so that you don't create the wrong impression. Even if the EC, wanted to behave well, the EC appears to be pandering to the whims and caprices of government.
Right.
You remember at the time when Dr. Duffuor filed the injunction?
Right.
It had not even been heard. As soon as they got wind of it, they came out boldly to say that they would not be participating in the election. Everybody was surprised. It was like, what's going on here? You understand?
Yeah.
Even if the case ended on a Thursday night at 5 p.m., the EC should be ready to conduct that election. That is their job. The EC is an independent constitutional body set up to serve as an arbiter for elections. Political parties are a key component of our democracy. We have many cases that were won on the back of defending the Constitution. In fact, President Akufo-Addo himself, there are many cases to his credit where he felt that the MPP wasn't being treated fairly, or where he felt that there was a need to draw attention. In fact, for many years he was a perennial demonstrator, demonstrating against just about anything and everything, all because of a dream about wanting to become president one day. So ask yourselves, why would that individual today be president and want to see anything different?
Right.
There was a memorandum that was circulating a few days ago that they were asking for members of the EC, other staff of the EC,
yes,
to furnish the presidency with their CVs or curriculum vitae or even their resumes or whatever. The question is why? Imagine you are an EC, other rank staff even, and then you receive such a communication. Think about
odd.
Absolutely. Very awkward.
Right.
And under the current circumstances, with deep rifts in terms of mistrust. That the EC's image is at an all-time low. When we've just gone and picked up a complete political party foot soldier and made him a commissioner. We were in the Upper East region, I believe it was in the Bolgatanga Central, when a lecturer met me and said, look, Auntie Joyce, that guy was with me on the University of, campus. We used to go for these programs together. He communicates with the MPP. You understand? Everybody knows these things. So certainly, the EC itself probably is operating under enormous duress and struggling even now to assert its own independence. You see, it's almost as if you sell your soul and then suddenly you want it back. It is always a challenge. It's not so easy to do. But you see, I remember on a lighter side, I said, look, judging by what is happening on the ground, judging by the weight and burden of the hardship that we are all experiencing, where nothing appears to be working. Look, imagine the health minister crying foul about what is happening in the National Health Insurance and its ability even to support people who need to access health facilities. That is the health minister, the person who is nominated to be responsible for that sector. So imagine you and I, who are nobodies in the scheme of things. So there's all sorts of things going on. You take that and couple it with inflation that is at what, 54%. You understand? And then you ask yourself, where are we going to? We are carrying under the burden of an IMF program, where utilities will go up every 3 months. And you've heard that electricity bills have gone up by 18.3%. So has water. And so with many other things. In fact, there's even a big rumor that they expect even to review salaries downwards. The labor law says that you should not even vary somebody's income to their inconvenience. You can only go up, but they must stay where they are. So how do they intend to achieve that?
And yes, here we are.
Exactly.
And yes, here we are.
And under the circumstances.
Right.
So, in the space of about maybe 2 days, they eventually had to come out and conduct and supervise the elections as they were expected to do. They came out and did it. They did a good job. It was purely an internal contest. It was just for us in terms of the presidential and, of course, for the parliamentary. So very little acrimony except for certain, little issues here and there. It was purely a family affair. So everything went according to plan and went very, very well. And certainly, once they have given us a certain level of support, it's only fair that you express your gratitude or appreciation for their time, for their effort. Because remember that the EC is not just the ones that sit here in Accra. There's across the country with offices and branches everywhere else,
And if you'd permit me, I would like to read what was said to the EC. It says here, I also wish to thank the staff of the Electoral Commission for their support in making our parliamentary and presidential primaries a resounding success. My special thanks goes to Mr. Shrebo Kweku and his district election directors for working over and above the call of duty to ensure a successful election. So it looks here again like the former president again extending, an olive branch to the NDC. And like you say, good humor, good faith. Let's move along. Now, let's come to what he said about the MPs, and that's very important to me. I'll read first. It says here, incumbent members of parliament who lost their primaries must also keep your heads up. You remain a hero for the good job you have done and continue to do for our party and county. We need your experience and talents for the onerous job that faces us when the good people of Ghana give us a mandate to steer the affairs of this country once more. Above all, we need you in the remaining 1.5 years of your parliamentary mandates to carry out your duties with dedication and commitment to safeguard the interests of the Ghanaian people. I intend to meet with you as early as possible. The party needs you. We will continue to rely on you as we seek to win election 2024 and change the destiny of the suffering people of Ghana. We must remain one family. Let me emphasize and urge all of you as members of the NDC to rededicate yourselves, commit our energies and resources to work hard to win the 2024 elections. Now, here's my question. somebody like the Honorable A.B. Fuseni, and I had him here on Friday for good reason. I mean, shocking to say the least. He's not the only one. You know, some mighty weights, not in terms of their personality, but in terms of, like, you know, President John Mahama himself says, expertise, loyalty, commitment, you know. And I said this to A.B. I said, Honorable, we know, right? So I would have thought that as a party, that especially now, in terms of a split parliament, that thrives on loyalty to party to an extent. I would speak against that, but that is me, right? But thrives on loyalty to party. It's a little shocking to me that, forgive me, again, correct me at any point if you feel to, we failed to protect some, you know, and they were replaced by, I'm the only person that can say this.
Are you expressing your biases?
Yes, everything.
In some cases?
In some cases, yes, absolutely. Because, and comment on this too, all of a sudden, the NDC had all manner of individuals strangely popping up and contesting in its elections. Some of them, even the general public, even people that are not NDC, loudly wondering who these people are, what their political credentials are, and how, you know, suddenly they want to contest. And some of them actually won. I'm asking a very...
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the NDC not worried about this? Is this not a worrying phenomenon in the party?
You know, first and foremost, let me say without any fear of equivocation,
right,
that the NDC as it stands now, currently, is actually the most attractive political party across the political divide. You will see so many young people, so many professionals who actually put themselves up to contest. In some places where we actually don't have MPs or certain members of parliament, some often constituencies, for example, it was fantastic to have great dynamic individuals picking up forms to contest. In others, we had very dynamic women who were coming on board to contest for the very first time.
right.
In some other places too, we had people who had left parliament and were probably coming back again and willing to contest. One of the best things was seeing the Honorable Avoka, for example,
right,
who had decided after being one of the longest serving members of parliament that he was no longer going to contest. And I still remember the applause that greeted his announcement as one who had paid his dues, right, and was deciding to bow out very, very graciously. Everybody received the news with such admiration, because that's not a story you hear very, very often.
True.
But of course, he had been there a very, very long time. And what was surprising was the long list of young persons from all categories of professions who were waiting actually to succeed him. This is a story about progress. We're a social democratic party. But yes, there's those very painful ones that maybe in some cases even research had actually even shown that maybe there will be difficulties. Maybe we need to approach it from a certain perspective.
Right.
Maybe we even ought to try out new or fresh candidates. But then there's also those situations that you expected these individuals to actually be retained. You know, in terms of ABA, for example, and I would quote him on this one. You know, when your mother dies in the marketplace, there's really no need for you to announce it.
Announce her funeral.
You don't have to tell anybody, because
right,
everybody has witnessed it.
Right.
That's what happened in his case.
Right.
And I think that for the longest time, he was trending on literally all the platforms. And even there were all these very interesting other, you know, proverbs that were added to his rather very tall list. Exactly. So I'm sure that we will all remember his contributions with enormous nostalgia. We will for a very long time wonder why he didn't win. We will even expect that maybe eventually, who knows, he might want to come back. Because sometimes you see, in some of those places, they would go for someone new. And then by the next cycle, they realize, oh, we probably want him back. And then that's what happens. I also think that sometimes there's a way that Uncle Ato puts it. It has also become very aspirational for a lot of people. So you find out that someone's been there for a while, and there are a lot of young people who are all literally, it's actually very competitive. It's keenly contested. In some communities, even the one person who probably will be an individual of any repute will be the person who enters parliament. So this makes it a very potent space for many people with such aspirations to want to unseat an incumbent so that they can also come into parliament. You know, it's actually very glamorous. Even the attitude of the parliamentarians themselves doesn't help. I mean, when people enter power, you can tell. I mean, there's always a certain, you know, a new boost to their image. There's little walls around the steps that they take. And there's a certain public image that they are even able to cut for themselves. And so, yes, who doesn't want to be? It's almost like being called to the bar. You suddenly feel that you belong to this very unique fraternity. And so,
very learned.
Absolutely.
Very learned community.
You understand? So there's that too. But yes, I love the fact that President Mahama made this call very, very early on in the day, inviting everybody to continue to support the party. Because look, we have almost another year and a half to the next election. We'll still need their participation in parliament. We'll still need their commitment to the party. And I love the fact that I saw the Honorable A.B. Efuseni in Kumewu, for example, you know, contributing his quota. So I think that our politics has also come of age, where you should realize that just by virtue of the fact that you did not enter parliament or that you lost your seat should not necessarily be like cause for you to be disgruntled or that you be ostracized. It is a fair contest. You get my point? Right. And sometimes it is not easy even to, you know, deny people this opportunity to contest. These days you find that whenever they are even disqualified, they go straight to court. The party has an appeals process. Once you exhaust the internal processes, you can go to court. You feel free to do so. And people take all these sorts of...
Is that something that... And here I'm asking your personal opinion.
Yeah.
Is this something that you think is healthy? This thing about anybody can wake up anytime and say, I'm contesting in this party. If the party says, no, I'm taking you to court, is it healthy? Or should the party have a few barriers in place to keep some people out?
You know, the party has guidelines. The party is run by and guided by a constitution.
Right.
The constitution actually indicates what the criteria is for people who qualify, for example, to contest. And so once you meet it, why not? But don't forget, there are also many instances where individuals have campaigned, they've picked up forms and all of that, and they've been disqualified at the point of vetting. For one reason or the other, you're not a paid-up member, people don't even recognize you. I was actually nominated to serve on the appeals committee, even though I didn't make the time because I was on the campaign with the boss. I followed on some of these conversations. There's a young lady that I actually would call maybe one of my mentees, fantastic young woman. She was disqualified, and it was because they couldn't trace her membership. She was a member of one of these, you know, I don't know, outside Ghana, I think, and traced her membership to that particular branch. But they cross-checked, they asked for letters, they asked for confirmation, they didn't find any. So we have all of these other ones. You know, there's a lot of them that maybe they don't even make the headlines, so you probably don't get to hear about them. Right. Exactly. But I don't think it is a case that it is about every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Right. No. I mean, most of the time you heard the conversations about all the young people from all walks of life, various professionals who were actually picking forms. I mean, there's a fantastic Dr. Titus Bayo, for example, who picked forms and won in his constituency. Great material. He helped us a lot when we set up the COVID-19 health team, for example. He's a very active member of one of the party's committees. And, I mean, I think that he's cut his teeth and believes that he can serve his people better by going into parliament. My good friend Edward Bauer lost. I mean, we were with him the whole of that period. There was no sign that Edward was going to lose at the primary.
Also quite strange.
Yes, exactly. Fantastic individual, great professional, affable guy, you know, very hard-working, very committed, very loyal.
Been around for a while.
Exactly. I mean, there's an interesting example of my own crush, Dr. Aine, for example, who had his own classmate picking up forms to contest.
Right.
Yes. But I love the way he carried it. You know, Dominic is a man with enormous flair and enormous wisdom. Right. He brought him onto the stage. He embraced him. He was very warm and, you know, told the story about their lives together and all of that, he still prevailed. So there's also dynamics that come into play. And, you know, there's also other considerations also. There's many other things that play out even at the constituency level, at the branch level, and then there's just some people that maybe they're not even ready, but still want to come and contest. You know, so there's also things. The best option is not always to disqualify people unless they have failed on one or two of the requirements, really, under the circumstance. But otherwise, once people are qualified, it is why we go through the vetting process. It is actually so you can find out just whether someone is qualified or is not. But you see, the constituencies themselves would normally even petition against some individuals. They check through the register, maybe they don't even know you. So there's all sorts of things that go on. But I think that all in all, we lost, I think, about, was it 17 members of parliament? That's quite a number.
That's a number.
Yes, that's quite a number.
That's
and,
a substantial number.
Absolutely, some of our very, very experienced ones.
Right.
Of course, you know, but I'm sure that there are many other roles that they can actually serve in. There are many ways they can continue to support the party. And like I said, there's some who probably don't even want to go into parliament, who will never enter parliament, but they still contribute their quota. And the biggest commitment or the biggest objective, I might say, should be the willingness to participate in the process to win us power. We are actually in very, very difficult circumstances. The malaise that we all want to fight is what we have in government today. It is just not a government that fits purpose. And so if we all want to collectively work hard to remove them, then we must overlook the fact that I've lost an election. Doesn't mean that you're no longer a member of the party. Your standing even is actually even higher because you're a former member of parliament. I mean, look at our party chairman today, for example. He was a former member of parliament. Our general secretary, the Honorable Fifi Kwete, is a former member of parliament. It actually puts you on a certain pedestal. It puts you in good stead. You are recognized. You are identified as a future leader in any capacity in which you want to serve. I think that that also should be reason for them to have some pride in themselves and continue to support as they've always done. The secret really is not to give up or be demoralized or disgruntled because you lost it. And sometimes that is why the party is also, you know, unable to be heavy-handed, so that you win, you've won. If you lose, you have lost.
You really lost.
Exactly. And then you don't come back and blame.
But for interference, I might have won or I might not have won.
So sometimes it is. And of course, I mean, like I said, one of the most popular losses that night was certainly that of the Honorable A.B. Efeseni. And all of us probably wondered what happened, what went wrong and all of that. But A.B. is a fantastic individual, fantastic material, writes well, speaks well, is passionate about his social democratic credentials. And I have no doubt in my mind that he still has a lot of energy in him to continue to support all of us as we go along. And I like the fact that he has continued to engage very closely. And the boss is meeting them in the next few days to have a conversation with those of them who lost. He'll also be meeting those who actually have been retained. And what we want really is just that force to go forward to secure this election.
Absolutely. Yes. So that brings me, you know, to this thing about the internal structures of the party. Looking from outside, again, correct me at any point if you think I'm, you know, on a frolic of my own that has no factual basis. It doesn't look as though, I mean, it looks as though there is some rancoin, you know. There's what happened in Parliament with Haruna Iddrisu and the newly elected, you know, majority leader. There's the seeming, you know, rancoin between the past chairman and the new chairman, both excellent men in their own rights. you know, I could go on and on. There's the video of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama himself addressing the North, you know, the Northern Caucus, so to speak, and speaking about there was a generation before me, they did, yes, it's our generation, we will leave, the next generation would come, I don't have favorites, I can work with everybody. And in that video, we see the Honorable Haruna Idrisu seated Northern, we see Haruna, Honorable A.B. Hussaini, we see, you know, some very notable faces in the video. I mean, there seems to be internal, help me, I can't find my words, within the NDC.
You're not one to be struggle with words. I mean, maybe you're trying very hard to say something that you probably don't want to say.
I am thinking twice about saying and you know,
sure
checking myself,
yes,
even as I proceed.
Yes.
But you understand what I mean?
No, I get you. I understand you. And I mean, look, be that as it may, there have been a few changes here and there. There's only one thing that is dynamic, and that is that change will come.
Right.
Is it easy to embrace change? The answer is no. Is it easy even sometimes to accept change, even when it's inevitable? The answer is no. In any case, the same individuals could even have lost their seats and lost those positions even in Parliament, naturally, because of attrition of having lost your seat. So it means that you will no longer be in these committees, you will no longer be on the front bench, etc. So there's that too. But you see, there's also the other side, which is that no matter how democratic an exercise, once there is that heated contest, naturally there's always going to be some simmering tensions, understandably. I mean, I love the fact that the outgone chairman, for example, has been participating in some of the general activities. For example, he was in Tamale, he was in the Eastern region when we arrived there. He joined us for the Thanksgiving service for President Mahama at his church 2 weeks ago. And I think that is beautiful. I believe that the chairman currently himself is actually working very, very hard to build bridges in and around the party. And you know, he is also a very seasoned politician. So I'm sure he knows exactly how to handle some of these things. It is also one of the things that happens in a democracy. Remember, for example, before our perennial demonstrator became president or flag bearer, finally, what happened? People lost their lives. For example, their party chairman, the original chairman in the Upper East region. There were also issues. The then general secretary and chairman were both suspended right up until when he won. And even still, he brought in his own friend and right-hand man, who we all believe was even a CPP person, to serve as party chairman, the Honorable Freddie Blay. He survived all that. Remember the incidents at the party headquarters of the MPP, for example? There was mayhem. Deep rifts. There were all sorts of things. All because of this desperation to win power. At the time, we all didn't know why. Years later, I'm sure all of us are better apprised now of why one individual was so desperate to become president. And as soon as he became president, you can see the recklessness even in the way the promises were made. You could tell most of these were not even well thought out. But you know, there was a certain euphoria. And that euphoria literally almost propelled them to that win. But go back and examine some of the promises. And he will tell you they were very shallow, ill thought out. That this is just a conversation because I want people to just give me what I want. And as soon as we got what we wanted, what happened? Do you recall the speech President Akufo-Addo made on the day that the Honorable Martin Amidu was sworn in as the first Special Prosecutor of Ghana? I'm sure most people probably have forgotten. They probably pushed it into the recesses of their memories. In the aftermath and in the fallouts with the Honorable Martin Amidu, what does that tell you? That it was never the intention to fight corruption. Not on any level. It was just a smoke screen to create an impression, because there was still this, we were not too sure what was going on. And then we got a second one. What has changed? Same. So sometimes I think that, you know, there is something we try not to do, and I tell people all the time that there is one reason why in serving John Mahama, I do it very passionately, not because of what other people see or think, but maybe because I have experienced him in many ways that I probably didn't even think that I experienced until I came to work with him so closely. A very sensitive man. And above all, that is one human being that arrogance probably shies him and is nowhere near him. You understand? And on every debate, you'll be surprised that Mr. Mahama will be the one to come in with the very pragmatic outlook and question whether you think that is workable or not. And I come back to this point I've made so many times. He fought so hard to resolve Dumsor that in the end, he literally sank himself in finding a solution. And even when the solution was eventually found, if you remember, it was so ridiculed and so weaponized that people did not even see the effort that had gone into securing car powership and into securing Ameri, just to keep the lights on under very difficult circumstances. So there is also that extent that an opposition party will go to win an election, by hook or by crook. Make all the highfalutin promises, tell all the lies, just because you want to flow. I mean, perennial lies can eventually begin to sound like truth in some ears. If you say it so often, if you repeat it enough. I mean, look at the charlatan, you know, the shenanigans at the time of daring even to question a man who was formerly a governor of the BOG and demanding answers from him for 170 questions. If you put those same questions today to President Akufo-Addo or to his vice president, 10 of them, and give them 10 minutes, I'm sure they can't give you answers.
Right. You were speaking to the person of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and how he's handling the North. It's important to me. I'm sorry that I'm coming back to it. And how he's handling the first of all, is there wahala in the North? And is it being solved? Or do you think that the way it's being solved is permanent?
I really don't think there's any wahala in the North. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No. And in terms of if there's any friction between President Mahama and anybody else, I don't think so. I mean, you saw the very beautiful introduction by the Honorable Haruna Idrisu. Right. Indeed, his constituency gave John Mahama 100% in that internal contest. I engaged him. We had very interesting conversations the whole time we're up there in the northern region. I didn't sense anything.
Not the person of the ex-presidents, but, I mean, in the leadership of the North.
Who is in the leadership? The same people are in the leadership. Okay. There is him, there's the MPs. You know all of them. You know Haruna Idrisu, you know Honorable Suhini, you know, basically you know all of them. I mean, A.B. Efusini until recently, you know him. And then, of course, all the others. I don't sense that there's anything unusual per se. And I expect us to do very, very well, largely because of the deception. You understand?
Right.
I mean, everybody, you know, look, the king is naked. As simple as that. And you drive through these constituencies where most of these promises were made. I mean, you and I know about one district, one dam. You've seen what happened. You saw the documentary about how those dams are fed. You get me?
Right.
You watched about each constituency getting what? $1 million. If indeed each constituency were going to get that $1 million, we won't be having this conversation.
Right.
There's so much filth that's engulfed a lot of these constituencies because the district assemblies don't have any money. You understand? It is almost as if Ghana ends when you leave portions of the Ashanti region.
Right.
And everywhere else, it's almost as if there's no central government. Because you don't see anything that goes on there.
Right.
Go to the University for Development Studies, the campus in Navrango, that was renamed. Even the road right in front of it. And it is why President Mahama, actually, being the historian that he is, remarked about the history behind launching his campaign at the University for Health and Allied Sciences in the Volta region, and then coming to conclude it by accepting to be flag bearer at the UDS in Tamale. Right. UDS was born out of the sacrifice by Jerry John Rawlings, and University of Health and Allied Sciences by President John Evans Atta Mills. They give me one example of a public university that was constructed by the New Patriotic Party or even by this current administration. They promised you 350 what? Senior high school buildings out of envy and jealousy that the E-blocks had taken center stage. They literally demonized them by, look, there's one that they had announced so many times that was in the bush. We drove past, I had to ask my colleague, I said, did they not say that this school was in the bush? I looked around. The school was bursting at its seams, filled to capacity. The propaganda was very well organized. It was serialized. The lies were told so many times that they began to sound like truth until everything began to unravel. And you see, the lies have continued, and because they benefited enormously from these lies, they don't realize that a lot of people see them for what they are.
Exactly. I want to bring in a few of our viewers at this point. We are live on Facebook, and so, I want this to be as interactive as possible. Amiyawu Isa says, when the voice of the people speaks, Ghanaians listen. Bright Nubania says, Honorable Joyce Bawa Muktari Esquire, inshallah, your hard work shall not be in vain. I see all of you watching. I see you. I want to read a few of the comments. Right. Kasim Abdullahi Dayonga says, please, Amma, point of correction. No constituency did any candidate just come to contest. All those that lost, especially from all the northern regions, knew very well their chances were very slim, but took risk, and others just didn't work towards it. Amma, we disagree. We disagree on this one, so let's just keep it moving. But yeah, I respect your opinion.
Amma has disclosed her biases towards some specific individual.
Right.
We can allow her.
Please allow me. Please allow me. This one is from Al Ghani Wealthy, and it says, awesome presentation, Madam Joyce Bawa Muktari. This one is from Telma Eddie Kwate. She says, when is GM coming to the US? This one says, this from Anakwa Benson says, my sister, you are indeed blessed by the God of JDM. Right. So, no questions so far. I thought you bring in your questions so that, Madam Joyce Bawa Muktari could answer them. But let me go straight here. You are a valued member of the GM team. I mean, number 2. These days that we insist on numbers in this country. I would say you are the real number 2. Are there any special events planned for the rest of the year? And I'm asking this because we're in the thick of campaign. He's been chosen as the flag bearer of the party. Now the leader of the party. What's to be expected from the camp of JDM?
Well, you know that once he becomes flag bearer and leader of the party, today, for example, he went for the functional executive committee meeting. Right. He chaired the meeting in place of the party chairman, and largely because there's a conversation around how to prosecute the campaign in the Asin North constituency, for example. That is a very, very important item on our calendar for the month. So naturally, everybody is attaching all the seriousness and urgency to the matter as is required. So there's that. But in the whole period, he's continued to engage various groups. He's met some members of parliament, some key stakeholders. There's all these social things, there's funerals. So there's always one activity or the other. You know, to be honest, once the contest is over, it just never stops. And in fact, a few days ago, I was actually reminding him that he would have to find time to actually take a break so he can at least rest, re-energize, and then come back. Because I'm sure by the month of July, for example, the campaign will probably be in full flight all over again. And then don't forget also that there's all these international engagements that he also undertakes in his role and capacity as a statesman. So, for example, he'll be going to Europe soon to engage the party's branch in parts of Europe. He will do them with other members of the party, for example. And then they just keep going on. So, yes, the lady said, when is he coming to the U.S.? There's been an invitation from the U.S. for a very long time. I'm sure at some point towards the end of the year, he'll be honoring that invitation. And so there's always one activity or the other. But I think in all of it also, there's all the strategy sessions also. The choice of a campaign committee, the choice of various officers of the party.
The choice of running mates.
The elected
the choice of
officers.
Running mates.
There's that too, but you see
the choice of running
there's
mates,
that
madam.
too. Absolutely.
Right,
And,
right.
So there's also things to do. And, apart from that, there's also thinking about the future. What is it that we need to do? How do we need to do it? What are the things we need to harness? What are the things that we need to actually work on or improve? The biggest conversation in the room now is about how, and he made this promise to decentralize the campaign because there was a pilot even in the course of the internal contest.
Right.
Each and every region had its own campaign team. And you see how it all worked together and was very, very effective and efficient. He even promised rewards for constituencies that brought in the most votes. What it would mean then is that the constituency has actually worked very hard. And then he also made all these pledges about the welfare of executives of the party and promised even to improve the value chain in terms of logistics. There are lots of things that we don't normally think about. When you deploy logistics, for example, party paraphernalia, there are some that never get used. People probably not use them. Some people just take them and for whatever reason decide they're not going to use them.
They hold them as souvenirs.
Exactly.
Right.
There was a time when I was looking for party T-shirts. Believe you me, I won't mention names or where. To my utter surprise, this guy had T-shirts from as far back as 2008. I thought, what's going on here? So when you hear these conversations, you may think, oh, how? But it is true. It happens. So there's all these arrangements going on. There is also now the responsibility also of spearheading affairs of the party as flag bearer. But the best part is that when you have an experienced party chairman, an experienced general secretary, you can rely on them. So President Mahama is not one of those who even participates all the time in the FEC meetings, for example. Or he has also got the Elders Council that he also participates in. So there's all these stakeholder engagements that are going on. There's the work in Parliament, for example. So day in, day out. And of course, to every policy that you have in place now, if it's bad, you also have to think of an alternative. And
Absolutely.
the biggest conversation in Ghana now is how to fix what? The economy. Nothing beats that right now.
And he writes eloquently on that in this, even in this one. He writes very extensively.
Yes.
If you may, perhaps that would be a whole conversation for another time. If I haven't been too mischievous today, you could you could grant me, the pleasure of your company again to look at that. But I want to know. We are hearing things. We are hearing, whispers in the, we are hearing. Are we, Mr. Shabbat, running mates? And I've been trying to get this out of you forever. are we maintaining? Are we maintaining, or are we changing the running?
Oh, you're talking about,
there's so much
you're talking
conversation.
about the running mate.
Yes, there's so much conversation about this in town. Everybody has an opinion.
Well, but it's normal. I mean, opinions are like onions. There's so many layers.
And noses. Everybody's entitled to one.
And eyes and ears and choice of words and name it.
Right.
And like I say, see, John Mahama is one of those very dynamic individuals, very tolerant, open to all sorts of conversations. You'll be surprised. Sometimes in a day, probably he's keeping up maybe about 10 conversations. And you know, I tell you all the time, I am not number 2 or number 3 or number anything. You know, I'm just someone who is happy to serve. And like I say, Ama, if you put me in this little corner and you give me an assignment, I will perform it to your admiration for as long as you are willing and happy to let me do it. That's not a problem. And it didn't start maybe just by working with John Mahama. It's been my whole career trajectory. The way I run my life, that's how I run my workspace. And I'm one too who is not prone to all these unnecessary stereotypical conversations. You know, I don't even care that you don't like me. I don't even mind that you're talking about me behind my back, to be honest. I'm past those sorts of things. I just mind my business. And I learned one thing to avoid a lot of conversations with a lot of people, because then it's easier to just stay in the middle. And I've made some fantastic friends too, who come in handy as and when you need that support. And when it comes to, you know, decisions that are within the remit or purview of a flag bearer at any given time. Look, take for example Professor Mills of blessed memory. He started off with the Honorable Mohamed Mumuni. He had the Honorable Martin Amidou at some point, and then John Mahama was the third in that particular, you know, campaign. Nana Addo and Bawumia contested at least twice and lost before they won. So there's always these dynamics. In terms of John Mahama, he had a Misata, but you know the circumstances were slightly different. Because unfortunately, Professor Mills had passed, and so then Governor of the Bank of Ghana became his vice president as a very distinguished member of the party who had served in various capacities, and then they both prosecuted the 2020.
Truly African.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to yet another episode of your #1 Zongo program here on Pan African TV with me, Latifa Adam. Today, Hello Zongo happens to be at the Nima Mamobi Community Library, where the Zongo Digital Skills and Empowerment Program is having their stakeholders engagement. Just relax, because they've been impacting on the lives of our Zongo community youth for the past 5 years. Relax, take a pen and a paper, because I know you'll be jotting down some important things. So stick and stay with me. I'll be right back with the program.
So I gave it my all. Anytime they needed something as a child, I tried as much as possible to do, because I know I am the only person staying with them, and I am the only person who can render this service to them. So anytime it comes to my education, I tell them something like this is demanded of me at school. No matter how they are going to raise money to pay, they do pay. And I've also understood my parents from the point that they are struggling to give me a very decent life. So I also do a side business, but I do it together with my mom. I used to sell Oda football. So when my mom was going to the market, I also carry my own Oda football. I go with her. When someone buys from my mother, and I also say, I'm also selling Oda football, would you buy? Like people even buy on credit from me. So even if I go to school and I'm not able to join my mother in the market, she does the collection of money. So they pay me like an installment. So in my absence, take the money on my behalf. So I'm able to at least, not everything that they would buy, but certain things that I think I can pay. I pay for them. I pay for them actually, and I don't tell them because I think I also needed to assist them. Growing up, knowing the kind of situation all we are in, I also offered my own self for them. How can you not do that?
So you mentioned like that all sort of things when you were on the TV. How did you pick yourself up and come back to school? How did it happen? Because looking at the community we are coming from, there are so many influences. Did you have the parents push you to go back to school? What was it?
Well, very nice. But I'll try my best. I think my mom moved from Mamobi. I was born at Mamobi, and after my father passed, my mom moved back to where she was married from Saminkesi. So that's why I grew up at 8:15. Came back to Accra, and then I was asked to become a mechanic. I was sent to the mechanic shop to learn how to repair cars at Chimota. I think it was there that I started realizing who I was and what I wanted to be. One day I just decided that I am not meant to be here. I am not saying the mechanic thing is not good, but me, I felt like I wasn't meant to be there. No, I was.
Like, were you doing so bad that you got
No. I was picking up. I was really picking up, but then I think the whole environment wasn't for me. One time I decided that no, this is not for me. I just packed everything, moved back home to Kisema. I know Kisema, there's a Zongo there. Kisema Zongo. So that's where my uncles and my big brothers were. So I moved back, and then they said, okay, now let's bring you to Newtown. Come and learn how to sew. You know, with one of my brothers. I was learning how to sew, then I was like, no, I'm not going to be here. I moved from there, and then they said, okay, now be on your own. You understand? But all the while, I've been thinking about education, going back to school, because I dropped out of school at GHS 2, you know, because I had some challenges that I wouldn't want to discuss, but then I had to drop out at GHS 2. Then I told myself I wasn't going back to school again. And then when I came back to Accra, I said to myself, no, I think the only way for me out of this struggle is for me to go back to school. You know, and knowing that I didn't have GHS certificate, how am I going to get to SS? You know, and I was enrolled into a remedial and dropped out. You know, but later I met someone, a friend, who told me that no, you can still go back to school. You just have to be a mature student, right? So I went to ACT, where HR was as well, and then I wrote the entrance exam and I passed. And then how to pay my fees? I just, at the point I felt like I was a failure, that there's no way I could start something and end it. So it was really pulling me back. I could start something and I keep telling myself, I'm not going to finish it. But when I enrolled in the university, I got a degree program. First year was struggle for me to pay. Then I looked into their social media, I realized that they didn't have presence. A communication school didn't have presence online. So I wrote them a proposal that I want to manage the social media presence. I'm an expert in social media management. Gave it to them, and they called me into a meeting. And they said, we cannot pay you. But what we can do is that we will take charge of your school fees. Meaning, we will sponsor your school, and then till you finish school, you're not paying a penny. And that's how come.
Scholarship?
Yes, and that's how come I became a graduate. You know, so it's been one challenge after the other. But alhamdulillah, I feel like these were things that were shaping who I wanted to become. You know, though maybe very difficult, but alhamdulillah, I've been able to go through this process. And even without SHS certificate, got my degree. and got my master's. Yes.
But I'll come back to on how the society plays all of this, role in all of this. So, Katina, Zagin has mentioned so many challenges. And so, what do you think are the most pressing issues in our community right now? What are some of the issues you face as a Zongo girl while growing up?
One of our societal ills is lack of parental guidance. See, everybody will see that you have a parent, a mother and a father. There are certain roles that they play at home, like guiding you, protecting you, giving you shelter, and etc. But when it comes to guidance, like, they need to do more. They need to do more because this is me. Let me use myself as an example. Based on people's here say that, oh, you have to take your girl child to school. She looks promising. That was how come I got going. Like, that was how come I became enrolled in school. For me to start schooling. Along the way, you know, parents would like to see investment in what they invest, like the money they've been paying for school fees, taking care of you and everything. But it gets to a point in time, they just leave you by yourself. Like, you grow up by yourself. You find your way, you find your path. Our community presently, lack of parental guidance is bringing a whole lot of problems to us. Growing up, I had to decide on the program I wanted to read. My terminal results, I open it. Nobody opens it for me. If I do well, if I perform well, if I don't perform well, it's still mine. It's for my parents to have a look at it. I would say because they didn't get the opportunity to be educated. But there are certain excuses that we try to put out for them, which I think sometimes they also need to stand up. Like all this. School fees and everything, it gets to a point in time, it's like within the family there is a certain particular stage you have to reach and then you are done with, and that is it. But in my case, I felt it like that wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to continue, I wanted to push and then graduate because you start something the way that you mentioned, and then you just start, and then you realize that maybe you're kind of feeling like a failure. You couldn't pursue what you wanted to do. Parental guidance again here is parents become more responsible towards their children's upbringing or their welfare. I think some of the problems in our Zongo community will drastically be reduced. Yeah. So that's what I have to say on one of the societal ills. You said maybe you have a follow-up question?
Oh, no. That's actually thank you. Do you agree with her, Ida?
On what specifically?
I
can hardly disagree with anything either of them says because our stories are interconnected. I mean, when we say Zongo people, we are closely knit family, if I may use the word. And the reason I choose family in particular is that from the parental guidance, if I'm to say one of our greatest challenges is the family system. How over the years we have failed to hold on to certain values that established Zongo communities before, and then gradually things are deteriorating. Why am I saying this? If I'm to use myself as a typical example, my upbringing was quite privileged. Honestly, from being a child, I attended the best of school. I received the best of parental care, attention. But one challenge was that I didn't grow up with my dad by my side every day because he lived in the Gulf. He lived and worked in the Gulf, as is the case with most of our families. People have to travel to hustle and take care of the family. It still exists today. And because of that, there was a gap. The gap was exploited by other people in the family who looked after their personal interests at the expense of the interests of other members of the family. And as children, we were affected negatively. And so, yes, I agree with her. Myself, my mom and dad, I must say, divorced along the line. And then it caused serious problems because everything from the early days were very nice, they were beautiful. And suddenly, mom and dad had to go apart. And we felt the emotional effects of it. Then all of a sudden, you can go out and come back when you want. As a child, it was a bliss, but then when you compare it to the kind of upbringing that a child deserves, there's a lack of care, a lack of parental care and guidance, which she stated. So it affected me personally and every other person involved. Then we got to the point where from junior high, I had to go to senior high school. I was in Laboni. If you know Laboni, you would appreciate that Laboni students have the tendency not to stay in school for the entire day. And if there is no one at home to ensure that you stayed in school, it's a field day. You just get up and come home, go to school very late and come home very early. So that affected me. And I did not complete senior high. I attended for the first 3 years, but it was time to be registered and become a candidate. Money was sent from the Gulf to one of my uncles to ensure that they would pay, because my dad did not believe that if my mom did not live with me, she should take care of that. So he entrusted that to one of his brothers, and he failed to pay for whatever reason I may not know. So this I don't understand, but he failed to pay, and I wasn't registered. And as has been the case with our educational system, some issues are pay as you go, like registration. So I couldn't register and write my WASI, and I had to go back to school again. Then I paid and registered, and one of the teachers who was in charge of that came back and told me my index number did not appear. I followed him, and because there is a Muhammad in my name, and I make this case today very seriously, because there was a Muhammad in my name. When I mentioned my name to the teacher, he said, "You these people," and he used the term "you these people." I imagine he was referring to Muslim people and Zongo people. These people, you don't do what is necessary, and then you want to come and give people headaches. And so he didn't follow through with my thing. So I could not get my index number, and I couldn't write the WASI once more. All these things, as they happened, I felt they were very negative and detrimental to my development. But as things turned out, I had the opportunity to go live in Medina with one of my other fathers. He asked me to go back to Ideal College, because before I went to Medina, honestly, I was going wayward. I was becoming something else, something no one had envisioned. But because our society is designed in a way that when there is nobody to take care of you or provide support at home, there are people outside willing to accommodate you. Like if you want to do drugs right now and you are a child who has no parental care, as Khadija said earlier, if you go out, there are people willingly able to accept you and give you, if you want drugs, they'll give you drugs. If you want to do Sakawa, they will coach you to become a good Sakawa boy and stuff like that. And so that started eating into the personality I was becoming, and I was asked to go and live with my other dad, which I was happy to do. When I went there, I was asked to go to Ideal College. I went to Ideal College, the medium school. I wrote the WASI there. I filled in one subject, chemistry. Then I was asked to write again, and I went there and I wrote again. And sometimes we overlook the need to persist. But painful as it was then, you had to do it because you dream of becoming something important in future, and this is the path that is being laid for you. And they told me then that everything you are doing now, you are not doing for anyone, you are doing for yourself. And they mentioned your name, that whatever you are doing for this boy, you are doing for him. Inshallah, very soon things will be different and you begin to appreciate them. And I believe there's a lack of that. There's a lack of people who would remind us as we grow up of the challenges we are facing, that they are not going to be perpetual, they are fleeting. Whatever pain you're going through today is momentary. You have to go through it in order to understand what the essence of your life is. And so, growing up then, those things shaped me. Then it came to university. I wanted to go to the University of Ghana to go and do political science, but I didn't get to the University of Ghana to do political science. While waiting, I was asked to consider other options. AGCC came twice. I sat home for 2 years before finally understanding that, no, that's the path that I had to take. I may not be able to attend the University of Ghana then. I may not have been able to attend the University of Ghana then, but I had an opportunity to attend university, discover myself, be shaped into the lovely individual I have become today. and Alhamdulillah. So, yeah, those are...
Yeah, so I actually wanted to ask how you thought the society impacted on the president by the first time. And so I want to know, what do you think we need to do now to be able to impact the authorities that people make? Because we are in a society where everything is communal. So a lot of people grew up with their aunties, their grandparents, not dealing with the parents. But even if you are staying with the parents, then your auntie has to take what you do, your cousin does, a neighbor does. What do you think we need to do to be able to empower our youth to be able to make the right choice?
It will be very difficult to say we need to do this particular thing in order to avert all our challenges. But we have already started. 10 years ago, this kind of gathering was not common. Nowadays, we are having more and more of this interaction, and it is bringing us down to our community level to appreciate the opportunities we have rather than only focus on the challenges. I remember when the Telling the Zongo Story campaign began. The EU was very instrumental in that. And what was the purpose for doing that? That we had to change the Zongo narrative. It's come a long way. So many things have happened after here. And now what? We have Zongo Vision, we have Success Book, we have Zongo Inspiration Team, we have Mother of All Nations, we have all these wonderful groups. And indeed, we cannot discount the input of significant individuals like Sheikh Madam Sadi.
So I wanted to ask that you said you were enterprise. I wanted to ask, is this recognized nationally? Is this making impact? I would say the impact in our development.
In recent times, look, you take the development of Accra, for instance. It is the enterprising nature of Zongo people that has expanded Accra. Accra, in recent times, I've been part of some programs and projects that have enlightened me beyond what the ordinary Zongo citizen should know. It is a matter of necessity we are talking about. That Accra was along the shores of is it Gan, Osu, La. That was what we knew as Accra previously. But the involvement of Zongo people along the coastal lines, who came to trade in Kola North, who interacted with the colonial administration and did trade, gave the opportunity for Accra to be expanded, because then they saw that trade was happening within the central business district that the colonial administration felt did not have to be there, and so they began to move them. So they began to move Zongo people. I emphasize the Zongo because that's the initial stages of the expansion of Accra. So as a business district, it began to expand beyond just Zongo Lane and Cow Lane, then to Tulu, then to Adabraka, then to Nima. Nima was Kanda. There was no 37 military hospital back then. They took the people to go and sell cattle. Which people? Zango people. They went to sell cattle. They settled there, and then they began to move. When the Project 441 by the colonial administration came, it was settled down there. And then when the independence of Ghana happened, the independent government felt they needed the space to put civil servants there, and so our people had to be pushed down. Our people willingly gave the place to them. But today that place is not called Nima. A road has been put between that community and where we are known to belong.
We are part of the reason why Accra is expanding. We are not feeling the impact. The developmental impact is not felt in the Zongo community.
Because one of the things is that as part of organizing, we must be identified. And we have let go our identity to be defined by others. So one of the best points of embarking on this mobilization is to ensure that we are well identified. Today when I ask what the Zongo is, we would refer to a document. We would refer to a document that gives us some kind of legitimacy, but then it doesn't properly identify who we are as a people, and we are comfortable with that. Our comfort with it is depriving us the opportunity to experience the impact that who we are gives us. Let's take this issue for instance. The two major political parties, NDC, MPP, they have women organizers, right? They have portfolios at the national level, executive portfolios. And then they have a specific portfolio within that structure that captures a community. No other community in Ghana has that. It's only the Zongo community. Beyond that, they have policies, programs, and initiatives. The Zongo Ministry, which was created, it was because it has been noticed that Zongo people are increasingly important to national discourse, and so that cannot be pushed aside. And was put there that Zongo people, what has been our role in defining who Zongo people are? That is how come today, when we are talking about acquiring the basic document that makes you a legitimate citizen of this country, you go and you are told you are a foreigner. Because we have not made conscious efforts to define who we are as Zongo people. And as part of organizing, that's one of the basic steps that we must take. Because then, when something is dedicated to us, we gain the legitimacy to claim it. But today, when you rise to claim certain things, you would be told, or you can't be easily told, you are a foreigner.
Thank you so much.
Let me quickly add up to what he said. You were asking of the impact, the developmental impact we are not feeling it. I want to elaborate a bit on the political aspect that you spoke of. Over the years, these political parties they misunderstood the people of Zongo. When you mention Zongo, they see you as a radical person. It was through the efforts of some people who do not come out to the public space to change the narrative. Back then, we had people, we had educated people, we had literate, but there were a few. These people actually pushed behind closed doors. They work for the people of Zongo. They work for the development of the people of Zongo. But these people do not come out for us to know who they are. It is through their efforts that today the people of Zongo are enjoying privileges that we are enjoying all today. Like what he said, who pushed the whole government to create the Zongo development? Don't we have other people in Ghana? What is so special about the people? It's through the hard work of some people, and I want to believe it's through development. If those people were not educated enough, those people have not come together collectively to push an agenda, I don't think any government will come and realize the importance of the Zongo community. So one way or the